And we're recording. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Today I'm joined by the head administrator of the Antinatalism Reddit and founder of Aponism, Nume. Hello, Nume. Welcome to the channel.
Hi, Marcus. Thanks for having me.
Would you like to just introduce yourself to the audience for people who aren't aware of you?
Hi, my name's Nume. Full name, Numerous Macaroon 224 on Reddit or New Macaroon on Mastodon. I am the head moderator of the Antinatalism subreddit. I also founded the Circlesnip subreddit, which has about 4,000 members in that one. The Antinatalism subreddit has 230,000 members, about 22 million yearly views. I am the head administrator of the Veganism social Mastodon instance. It's the largest vegan Mastodon instance with about 300 active members. I also run the lemmy.vg vegan lemmy server. I am the one of the moderators of Vegan Circlejerk, another subreddit with about 98,000 members, and the Vegan Circlejerk chat has about 6,000 members on Reddit. Those are both abolitionist vegan spaces. Yeah, that's my activism. I consider myself an animal rights activist and an antinatalism activist. Most of my activism happens online. You could call me terminally online or something. I don't really do much in person. But this is where I find I'm most effective as a profession. I'm a software developer. So I build lots of tools to assist myself in moderating and helping my teams. I run a VegMod software that helps with all of our subreddits. Yeah, I've been kind of more in the view for the last year when I started moderating the Antinatalism subreddit again. And I did start an Aponism. Well, I started Aponism. It was a short-lived movement that combined veganism, anarchism, and antinatalism. We'll talk more about it later. I have lots of feelings on that. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good summary of what I do.
Thank you. How'd you get involved in antinatalism and all this stuff?
Well, I first became antinatalist in 2019. Honestly, I was going through a lot in my personal life. I was feeling a bit depressed and such. And I felt like I was just kind of gravitating more towards a different sort of lens to the world. And when I found the antinatalism subreddit, I was like amazed that people had this sort of negative perception of life that wasn't necessarily a gift or a good thing that we've come to an existence. And I was really feeling that I wasn't that appreciative of the predicament I was put in, having to keep myself going. And at that time, my ADHD was not diagnosed, and I was struggling a lot in my professional life with the undiagnosed ADHD. And it was a big mess for me at that time. So antinatalism came both at a good time. I felt understood. I felt more understanding of my situation, but also at a bad time because it really negatively affected my mental health. Following that, I became vegan, I think for similar reasons to like why I really resonated with antinatalism. I survived the suicide attempt. A while later, after I recovered and such, I started moderating like vegan spaces, abolitionist vegan spaces. I felt a lot of meaning in it. It gave my life more purpose. My life got really far on track. I got married. My career is back on track and such. And I still like identified as an antinatalist. I always kept that. And I found that as I started maturing more, I found that the subreddit was still like overwhelmingly negative. It was getting worse. And a lot of people who were in my like abolitionist community, vegan abolitionist community, also felt that it was overwhelmingly negative and kind of a joke. It made us look really bad. So I offered to moderate, to help moderate when the moderators were open for applications. So I did that for about a week.
Do you mind who were those moderators? Or if you don't want to say, that's fine too.
Oh yeah, sure. So at that time, the head moderator was Exact, like EXZACT, and the moderator who brought me on was Sig Prime. I've heard that Sig Prime has a really good reputation in many areas. I wasn't aware that she was so popular, but yeah, she's no longer on Discord or Reddit. So yeah, but she was really nice to me. I moderated with her for almost a week. I put in a lot of tools like automod configurations to reduce the amount of like severe rule breaking on the subreddit. There are a lot of people talking about suicide. There's a lot of people talking
And
about.
what year was this that you joined, like started to
Oh yeah,
become a helper of the mod team?
so this would have been early 2024. I would say around March or April.
Okay.
And yeah, so I was part of it for about a week. I had a lot of ideas to improve things, to reduce the amount of problematic content. There was a lot of bad stuff being a moderator. A lot of people don't see these things, but like, and only at that time there was maybe 6 or 7 moderators on the team, and it was only Sig that was doing all the work, and she felt overwhelmed, overburdened by it. So I was really happy to take it on, to help out a lot, take a significant chunk out of her work, and I was able to like give her a break for a week. But yeah, with all the changes I made to the auto moderator configuration, and I had a lot of ideas to change the rules a bit. The higher ups, Exact, and a couple others, they weren't too happy about it, because I tend to like try to take charge when I see a problem, and I just feel like that they were kind of contributing to people like perhaps like maybe self-harming, or like creating an environment for some sort of violence or whatever. So like I just really wanted to change the rules. I really wanted to change the configurations and the culture within the mod team, and they weren't really too responsive to that in a positive way. They wanted to just kind of keep things the dumpster fire that it was. So Exact decided to remove me from the team forcibly, even though Sig disagreed with that. Sig was doing all the work. So yeah, I left the team at that point. Then I returned later in the year. That's a different story though. And yeah.
Go ahead. What's the different story?
Sure. So yeah, I continued moderating the abolitionist spaces, vegan abolitionist spaces, and that went really well. I've always been a very productive moderator. I tend to carry my teams. I always appreciate everybody else in my teams, especially when they, are in different time zones. But I frequently go through my mod queues. Um, I carry my. Uh, I sorry. I'm just. I really try really hard with my subreddits. Everything that I moderate. Um, so like in order to keep that. Sorry. Okay. I just want to say I have ADHD, so I have trouble with my trains of thought sometimes. But I do put a lot of effort into moderating my spaces. I care very much about them, as much as I change the rules, as much as I try to change the direction that things flow a bit. I do ensure that my rules are enforced well. I ensure that things run smoothly, and so I had a bit of a good reputation. Sig really missed me in that sense, pulling my weight. And when the old head moderator of the Antinatalism subreddit, so that was Exact. Exact caused some trouble somewhere else in Reddit. They were, I think, rude in a mod mail on like a pulp culture subreddit or something, and they got permanently banned. So that's a
From all of
fear.
Reddit or
All of
just?
Reddit, yeah,
Oh, okay.
side wide, and that's a fear of a lot of moderators, especially head moderators, to have all that power just kind of bursted over something really dumb. Honestly, I don't think that they deserved their permanent ban. I wonder if Reddit had like a grudge against them, like some sort of like note to say, hey, whatever reason you have, permanently ban this person. But yeah, so Exact got permanently banned, and because of the way that the moderating system works, Sig was able to remove the other moderators that were ahead of her now that Zach was gone. So Sig became head moderator as kind of like a takeover. And immediately Sig remembered my contributions, and Sig liked what I was doing with Circlesnip. So she made me the second second in command, and pretty much told me that, you know, it was my subreddit at that point to do whatever I pleased with it. She believed in my ideas. She believed in my motivation, and so yeah, I kind of at that point I tried to. Since then, I've tried to implement changes slowly, a little bit at a time. I've been trying to just ensure the rules that we already have generally are enforced properly through automations, or just through me being quick to check the mod queue, respond to the reports and such. Around March, she decided to quit online activism, so she gave me the head moderator position of the subreddit.
And this is in 2025?
Yes, this is 2025, so it's
Okay.
been about 8 months now.
Sorry, I made you lose your train of thought. Go ahead, keep going.
Sorry. Yeah, so yeah, since then I've just been changing rules here and there. I'm trying to move it in a better direction that more represents, I think, that the thought of antinatalism outside of just that subreddit. There are a lot of like antinatalist philosophers, like not a lot, but there are some. And there are a lot of other very reasonable antinatalists who aren't on Reddit, who feel alienated from it. I kind of don't want it to be like just a subreddit for depressed teenagers who hate their parents. And I don't want it to just be a space for incels who are jealous of people who are having children and who hate babies. I want it to be more of a philosophical space to talk about. It's a very serious issue, antinatalism. You know, natalism is an issue that, you know, needs to be discussed, but we need to do it maturely. And you know, for people to take us seriously, it can't continue to be a dumpster fire. So I've just been trying to move it in a different direction. I feel that the old head moderator and his team, sorry, I'm presuming their gender. I'm not too sure what exact gender is, but I'm trying to kind of move into a direction that's more serious. There's less hatred. There's less potential for violence. I take very seriously the way that the subreddit impacts the mental health of all of its users and viewers. Like I said, we have 22 million views in the past year. That's a lot of people. So like whenever the topic of like suicide comes up, I realize there's gonna be thousands of people looking at that, and I don't want it to trigger anybody. I do remove suicide notes quite frequently. Thankfully, my bot normally catches these. You know, people make a post saying they're going to kill themselves next week or whatever.
If you were
So
to
yeah,
guess, how frequently does that come up? If you're just to guess.
like some months it's worse than others, but I'd say like once every 2 weeks or so.
Wow.
Like a concrete sort of like date. Like I think it was 2 days ago, somebody said they would do it on like Sunday or something, which is tomorrow. Or yeah, like so what I do is like I either like just remove it silently, or I might like give a full ban. But I have to be really careful that if I permanently ban somebody and they get a message about that, that might kind of trigger them to actually do it. So I have to be really careful about how I handle these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like generally, I have to I take very seriously the impact that antinatalism and the discussion on the subreddit has on people. I know there's teenagers, I know there's vulnerable people who are reading the subreddit, and I really don't want anybody to harm themselves. So that's one thing I kind of pride myself in my effort. You know, since it got changed over to me, that I've been really trying to tackle that issue. And another thing is, I know it's been a bit dramatic with me. I've been trying to tackle the issue of Efilism and the forced extinctionists who have sort of been making calls for violence, even if it's just kind of theoretical at the moment. Like it was just like a thought experiment. I see it as like it's not innocent. It's not benign. like I see I see some of the ideas, some of the more extreme ideas that are used to be hosted in antinatalist spaces to be vectors for terrorism, for violence, as we've seen. So I take that very seriously as well. I've been trying to tackle that, and even though I've been targeted a little bit, but I find it to be an honor that I can do this. I see it as bigger than me. I see it as this is going to be antinatalism has been a thing for over 1,000 years, and I hope for, like I guess I guess human voluntary extinction would be preferable. But 1,000 years more, I hope that at least as long as humans are around, that the thought of antinatalism or the philosophy sticks around. And I think that whatever it is I'm doing today has an impact on how it's seen in 100 years. So it is a big honor for me, great honor.
Could you explain what the terms mean to you? Antinatalism and Efilism, and if we can go into also Aponism and how that developed.
Sorry, just to clarify, just antinatalism and aponism?
Antinatalism, Efilism, and
Efilism.
Aponism.
Okay, yeah, sure. So antinatalism.
I just want to make sure that while we're talking about these ideas that we're working on the same page,
Yeah. So antinatalism is just the idea that it's like morally wrong to create new sentient beings. So for me, like that directly means like I'm not going to create new people. I'm not having children. I have a vasectomy. And that also means that like in my food choices, I don't pay for animals to be, forcibly bred, impregnated on farms to create like more meat. So I consider it like kind of extending to like domesticated animals. I also like won't like have a breeder like produce a cat or kitten for me, right? So I wouldn't do that either. I'd adopt a companion animal if I were to. So yeah, it's just that creating new sentient beings is probably a bad thing. I apply it in every case. I don't think it's good to like have kids if you're rich, or if you are in a certain country, or if you're not in a certain country. So it's unconditional to me. Efilism is a totally different thing. Efilism is like really kind of like so I'm going to back up. So antinatalism, I see as kind of like I won't create new beings, because like I think coming into existence is something that you should like ask somebody if they want to do first. You can't do that, so I'm not going to force that upon somebody else. Ethilists are really concerned about like suffering. They're concerned about all life just being this hell. Same for especially for like wild animals. And that's a point of view, and that's something that could be debated one way or the other. But they want to extend this to sort of killing all life. They want to like end the world. They want to as one very bad person said, skin every living being alive slowly.
Who's that one person? Sorry, like, and again, if you
Oh,
don't want to name
yeah.
names, just let me know so I don't ask.
Okay, Amanda Oldfan Suknik. She used to be a moderator of the Antinatalism subreddit, and when Sig took over, Sig and I decided to remove her from the mod team. So yeah, sorry, Amanda, but yeah. So she used to have a lot of influence in the space. You search antinatalism on YouTube. Maybe she still comes up, but I'm trying to kind of kick her off. I don't think she has any sort of right to be in the space at this point, having said that she wants to skin me alive slowly. But yeah, Ephilists are like, they're violent. They want violence. I think that they know that they're definitely outnumbered. I think that they know that if they speak up, people are going to slam the door on their faces. So they've stopped getting together and such. But yeah, they're bad people. I don't think that they know that yet, but they're bad people, and they should definitely be muted and banned from anything possible. Conversely, Aponism is something that I put together. I based it off of like organic interactions I've had on the Circlesnip subreddit that I started in March of 2020. Yeah, I think it would have been around then, or March of 2024. So that space came out of the vegan Circlejerk community. There were lots of antinatalists on there, and some of the people in vegan Circlejerk were getting a little bit angry that there were natalists also there, and they wanted to remove natalists from this abolitionist vegan community. Now, that's not what vegan Circlejerk is about. So I suggested, hey, let's create a new separate space where the abolitionist, vegan, antinatalists can go to. And another detail is that we're all like anarchists. It's an abolitionist, vegan, like anarchist space. So yeah, we created the Circlesnip space, and I helped grow it. We grew to about 4,000 members now. And so there's a lot of like anarchist ideas, vegan, abolitionist vegan ideas, antinatalist ideas. And I just couldn't help but really see there's a lot of like sort of like underlying philosophical structure. The idea is like there's lots of commonality. And I thought like, hey, like this is something that doesn't necessarily need to be 3 different ideas in a trench code. Could just be like one idea. Now I know like it's a complex idea, but instead of saying like abolitionist, vegan, anarchist, antinatalist, I thought like, hey, how about let's just start saying aponist, and maybe we should start like making documents or some sort of formal organization to organize ourselves with, to kind of project our ideas forward and to sort of be more coordinated in that instead of just being a subreddit with 3 different ideologies stuck to it. So so Aponism is abolitionist veganism. It is antinatalism. It is anarchism, kind of together, but exploring the commonalities, the underlying parts of it. It's opinionated, so it doesn't reflect all flavors of anarchism. It doesn't reflect all ideas of antinatalism, all types of it. It doesn't necessarily reflect all kinds of veganism, but doesn't reflect abolitionist veganism specifically. So I would say like if like those 3 things, you can that's a good summary of what it is. It's looking for reducing sort of the suffering in the world, but in a very like consent focused way. It's not violent in any way. At least my idea of it is not violent. So that's one thing that separates it from Efilism. Aponism is not seeking for any sort of like extinction, especially not any forced extinction. I would say that it's just kind of meant to be like a personal sort of direction on how to like live, like if you want to try to reduce your own sort of suffering footprint, you should be vegan. You should see things from an abolitionist perspective, because seeing animals as not property like kind of radiates outwards and then toward other people. You probably shouldn't like create new sentient beings, so like don't have kids, and you should try to like not seek to like build hierarchies or to contribute to them. So in that sense, like it kind of tries to teach people to live a kinder, less suffering creating life. Unfortunately, like some people try to make it a little bit more like outward, sort of like controlling of others. I didn't like that. But there were different stages of what Aponism was at different times. So I think that explores a bit of that. Maybe we can dive into different parts in a further question.
Thank you. Do you mind explaining the rise and story of Aponism? Because it was when did you launch it, with the website and just the group and everything?
I believe that was in April of 2025, so really not too long ago.
So from that moment and the fall, could you explain that story to people and myself?
Sure.
It's been a while.
So Aponism launched with the manifesto. I created it with AI. It was pretty good. Like, it was a really great manifesto, and like having ADHD, I wouldn't have been able to make a better one myself. I edited it a lot. It took a lot of prompts. It wasn't just like, hey, give me some sort of wicked manifesto and here you go. Like, it took me like a week to put together. So it was meant to be like as a founding document, just to kind of get some people together, and then we can start talking more about like founding Aponism. So I quickly put together like a board of directors, just so it wasn't me. That way we could make decisions as a group on how to move things forward.
And you found these people through Reddit, I take it, right?
Yeah. So like I had a bit of a clique, people that who moderated spaces with me, or who I've had lots of positive interactions with. And so yeah, we formed this board of directors. Unfortunately, at that moment we also created a Discord. Unfortunately, the day I created the Discord server for Aponism, there was the bombing in Palm Springs. And that really affected me a lot, and it really affected our trajectory forward. Unfortunately, the bomber decided to include a link to the Aponist manifesto within his own manifesto.
Wait, was it around the same time that happened, or the exact day it happened?
So the Aponist manifesto came out a couple weeks before the bombing. I took a bit of a break after the manifesto came out, and then I was starting to like put together more of a website and a Discord server and the board of directors. And yeah, the bombing happened pretty much the same day that we started the Discord server. I was at a theater watching a play, and during the intermission, I looked at my messages, and I saw that the bombing happened. So my wife and I, we left the play and got into crisis mode. I was really scared at that moment, and I felt really bad. But after that point, I think we just kind of proceeded a bit slowly. Had a bunch of meetings, figured out how to get things together, and
I don't want to make you lose your train of thought, but before we move on to more of the development of Aponism in the group, can we just take a pause for the bombing? How how did you? I don't know. What are your thoughts about that particular time and that event, and the people involved? Like, were these people that you saw around the community? And yeah, do you have any comments about the attack?
yeah. So the bomber was a member of multiple of my subreddits. I like Circlesnip.
And this
was
is
one.
Guy Edward Barkus, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Guy was a member of Circlesnip. Guy was also a member of the Vistopia subreddit, which I was involved with. And Guy also used the Antinatalism subreddit. Guy was involved with someone named Sophie. Sophie was also a member of these subreddits. I was familiar with both of their names. I think like it's a tragedy. I think that a lot of the ideas that we speak about, antinatalism, abolitionist veganism, and a lot of it can be really heavy. And I think that people who aren't, that mentally sound can be influenced in ways that, create violence. I think that it's, Guy was obviously dealing with a lot at that moment. And, they're all attached to some of the fringe ideas around antinatalism, ones that I try very hard to keep away. But yeah, so it was a suicide, but at the same time, Guy was trying to like sort of tackle some of the issues he saw was wrong with the world. Of course, as antinatalists, we don't like say like IVF in vitro fertilization. For example, I was born from IVF. My parents took that route. So yeah, I could see that as like being say if you wanted to, I don't know, if you're going out and you wanted to take something out, like I could see why it's not the right thing to do at all. It's a terrible thing to do. But like I can just kind of see like his train of thought, and I think, oh no, it's a terrible thing. It's an incidental thing. If we run the communities the way that we had been, continuously, it was kind of bound to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the ideas that are adjacent or around the community. Can you be a little bit more specific? If you like, are you talking about things like promortalism or something else?
Yeah. So Promortalism was one. Efilism was another. The media ran with nihilism, which I think is kind of just a stub of what it is, what it all was. I think that promortalism can be linked to antinatalism in some sense. Antinatalism says like life is probably not a good idea to bring into existence. Promortalism saying that if you're in existence, death is probably the best course of action. I don't agree with promortalism at all. I don't identify with it, and I hate anybody who promotes it. I'll immediately tell them to eat shit, basically. But I can see how somebody who maybe became sympathetic with antinatalism began to interact and identify as one could, in bad circumstances, bad mental health, might, find promortalism attractive. Same with Efilism. I think people, unfortunately, when they're dealing with stuff, find these conclusions to be appealing, especially if they want to die.
So this happens, and this is around you start up this Discord, and take us from there.
Yeah, sure. So I started the Discord. I promoted it slowly at first through different subreddits that I ran, including Circlesnip and a vegan Circlejerk chat. Once we gained a good seed of people who I would imagine would be most aligned with Aponism, I also opened it up to the Antinatalism subreddit. I made sticky posts. I made it so that new posts would have a sticky comment linking to the subreddit. I mean, not to the subreddit, our Discord. I used other methods of promoting it that some people found a bit disagreeable. It grew pretty fast.
What were those things?
Oh, like so on Reddit, there's this thing called like a subreddit icon. So I made that the Discord icon. You clicked on it, it'd give you a link to the Discord. So it's kind of like guerrilla marketing, just different ways of getting people's attention to go to the Discord. Some people said it was like I was aponizing the subreddit. That's definitely a point of view. It's probably correct. It's correct, but yeah, I was just trying to get as many members as possible, the Discord, because I saw 1,000 members as a finishing line before Discord would start promoting it in their search engine feature. So yeah, I started growing it that way. And the Discord, of course, needed moderation. So I brought on some moderators. Warp Spider is one who eventually became the main community manager. There's also the Wolfstone. We had a couple other moderators who've come and gone. We had some issues with moderators. It's a really hard space on Discord, honestly. I don't think I want to ever go back to running a Discord server for antinatalism. But yeah, the Discord grew. With it came a lot of drama, unfortunately. I didn't like it much, so I just kind of left it to like Warp Spider to run for the most part. And I kind of I would insert myself here and there every couple days to have some chats just to interact with the community, because I saw that I had to be like connected with the Aponism community if I were planning to like keep expanding it and such. But eventually it did implode, the Discord server, and with that I feel wasn't like, well, that and the board of directors, which kind of was the end of Aponism.
And this happened 5 months after May, right? Like I forgot what month that was, but
yeah.
like
So
how did that get, like, what was the spark of that implosion?
sure. So the implosion happened in September of this year, 2025. There were some like divisions within our Discord and the broader Aponism community about the usage of violence, specifically like the context of like state violence against civilians. So like a question came up like, okay, so if a government was, you know, using various ways of violence, monopolizing violence to say oppress minority groups and such, like, is it okay to fight back? It's a very tough question to answer. This happens in like almost everywhere these days. And I don't think that violence, like from our end, like physical violence, is the answer at all. People disagreed with that. Specifically, Silco was a big pusher in this area that perhaps we should use violence in some cases. I didn't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. The real spark, though, that ignited it was when Charlie Kirk was shot. And well, it really troubled me when that happened because, like, I thought, okay, well, it could have been a leftist that had done this. And I totally know where they're coming from. I disagree with it, and I hope that the left doesn't embrace, and continue that kind of violence. So, as somebody who ran a lot of leftist spaces, I took it upon myself to say, hey, okay, let's put out a statement. I'll put out a statement saying that this violence is not something that we should be doing. It's not a direction we should be going in, and I wanted to condemn it. I asked for some input from the members of our volunteer team, mainly the members of the board of directors for Aponism, the Aponist Society. And the first, I had given them the opportunity to write the draft for this. So the first person to write the draft, the first draft was from Supor Sayan, who is a member of our board. And the draft, I looked at it when I saw it. I had asked for a draft a couple of hours later. It materialized. It frightened me because, like the first it was, trashing Charlie Kirk, which, okay, fine. Yeah, I don't like the guy either. Maybe it would speak, for our community a bit. But it was also validating the idea of violence against people like Charlie Kirk. And I looked at it and I said, like, we can't put that out. And my wife also read over it and she said, there's no way. She was frightened by it. So was I. I'm really glad that she kind of keeps me reasonable. So I didn't really give into the peer pressure. I said, no, we're not going to put that one out. And I said, try again. And then I think it was Warp Spider helped, make a revision of that draft. It still wasn't good. So after they had gone to bed, I still wanted to put out a statement, quite fast before people would get the wrong idea that violence is, something we should be aspiring for, that we should go in that direction. So I put out a statement that, like, blanketly condemned violence. I included a part saying that, like, we don't agree with Charlie Kirk, that maybe he wasn't a great guy. Just a small part about that. I know that some people found that objectionable for me. I'd prefer to not put that in there, but I put that in there just to kind of appease the people within, the Aponist Society. So I put that out. The next day, the morning I woke up, there were some people who were upset about that I put out a statement that was blankly condemning violence. So I removed the statement, I think, briefly, And then somebody who I consider to be a good friend in the space, who wasn't in the Aponist Society, said like that they were a bit disappointed that I removed the statement. And I thought, you know what, they're right. You know, I do very much stand by nonviolence. I think that it's an integral part of Aponism. And so I put the statement back out. And I think that was pretty much
And
the end.
you'd like this person to remain anonymous, right?
Well, their Reddit username is DGN24. I think on Discord they go by the King of Cosmos. They're one of the Vegan Circlejerk moderators, the head moderator. So,
Okay.
yeah, they were very much like an advisor with a voice of reason. I trust them greatly. You know, I think a lot of people in the Aponist Society, people who, you know, wanted to be on the board, kind of wanted sort of to be radical and, you know, change some things, whereas DGN is more of a sort of laid back person who definitely is passionate for abolitionist veganism and anarchism to a certain level, but isn't trying to, you know, start a riot or something. So, but yeah, so like after I put the statement back out, the people on the board were all very disappointed. They were irate at me. The main Discord, like the public channels, were also mad at me. So I ended up in some meetings to discuss it. You know, stuck with, you know, that I was taking the pacifist route. You know, I didn't want to open that Pandora's box of what if we start, you know, advocating for violence. The FBI had already visited me, and I know that, like, you know, some three-letter agencies would have been in the Discord. So I definitely didn't want to go in the direction of violence at all, like in any sort of way. I thought it would be a terrible idea, but I felt a lot of pressure to resign, either resign or just go with their flow. And I resigned almost immediately after some meetings. I'd say the person who pushed me out the most is probably Silco. And you know, I felt also pressure from Super Saiyan and less pressure from Warp Spider, but that did sort of, you know, my last conversation was with Warp Spider before I had resigned. Well, before I'd officially really resigned, and Warp Spider wasn't really willing to bend away from the violent stuff. So, yeah, so it was just pressure from all over the place. I resigned, and that was that for me.
And when you resigned, the time after that happened, what were you thinking and feeling? What was the aftermath like for you from your perspective?
Yeah, so for me, since I've resigned, I've never once doubted that I was the right decision. I was worried that I would regret it in some way, but I just haven't. And I think I felt really sad. I had this deep connection to Aponism. Not only was it something that I had worked a lot on, it was like my every thought of every day almost, is kind of my reason for being in some way. I was very excited for it. I was very excited to keep working on it for decades, hopefully. But you know, I was curious to see where the community, where the other board members were going to take it. I was curious to see maybe that with me being removed from it, me leaving, maybe it would thrive. I hope that I had spawned, you know, something that would just kind of could be independent, and I could see it as a good legacy, a positive legacy. But so after I left, I noticed there's a lot of like negative sort of feelings about me within the community, you know, while I was still in the group. People were kind of pulling down on me because like they're saying I was a pacifist and I was kind of weak and such. They're saying that I wasn't really representing the community, which fair, but I felt the community wasn't representing Aponism very well either. But things like kind of got really dramatic once I had heard that, you know, now that I was gone, they wanted to change the manifesto to reflect the violent stance. I think nonviolence was in the manifesto like 21 times if you control F it. And there were sections on it. So they wanted to remove those and either just remove them or add in sections that would permit violence in various cases. When I had heard about this, I was still like temporarily holding the Aponism website, aponism.org. I was, eventually going to pass it along. I'd offered to pass it along immediately, but nobody was able to host a website at that point. So I decided to put pressure on. The first thing I thought to do was to redirect the website to the Wikipedia article for terrorism. That was certainly a decision. But about 5 minutes later, I redirected it to one of the articles about the IVF clinic bombing. This, was not because I was necessarily just upset about it, but I was deeply concerned that if a group of, the influence that the Aponist Society had at that point, with the hundreds of Discord members and the influence we had on Reddit, would start saying that violence is okay, I was really worried that we would have more terrorist attacks like we did at the IVF clinic bombing. So I wanted to make a statement that I equivalated, what it is that they were trying to take a direction toward with that. I hope that they would just respond by not going in that direction. Like I was honestly, I was kind of bullying them, but they didn't really respond to that well. They just decided to change the name of things. That's another tangent, but yeah. So after they tried to change the name and such, they got moved. Warp Spider quit, and tried Warp. They tried to transfer things to more of like a horizontal sort of non-hierarchical volunteer structure, and it just kind of dissolved after that.
Sorry, I lost you at the last part. Could you say that again?
Oh yeah, sure. So after I left, after I had redirected the domain and such, there was lots of drama. I tried to pass things on to Warp Spider to handle my old prior duties, to kind of take charge of things, because I felt somebody had to. It wasn't ready to be fully non-hierarchical. Warp decided to leave that position and to transfer things to be like the non-hierarchical thing, and that didn't hold. So the Discord, they deleted the Discord under the direction of Silco and Wolfstone, and then that was pretty much it for Aponism at that point.
Okay. That opens a window for a submitted question for you. So I'll just read it as is. What lessons do you feel you learned from the last debacle when it comes to community building? More importantly, what do you hold yourself personally accountable for, and how do you plan to change in the future to avoid making the same mistakes?
Sure. So the first thing is I'm definitely not doing a Discord server ever again. I'll do a Discord server for like a group of friends, as I do have one of those, but I'm not equipped to do like a full scale community Discord. Additionally, I think it's difficult to mix politics in with antinatalism, especially radical politics. You get a lot of people with a lot of different ideas who are very forceful about it, and I think that the most like vocal people are often the most radical. And once you have differences of opinion, it becomes very dramatic. I don't think I'm well equipped to handle that. I find that like on Reddit, it's a better space for me. Like also like for example, the antinatalism subreddit, it's kind of more simple. It's there's not as much drama in this kind of way. So I'm going to stick to what it is I'm good at and not kind of try to lead a political movement again. I feel that I wish that I had aligned with the community more that I gathered around Aponism. I wish that I did. That way I could have represented them better. I didn't really, I never wanted to have a disconnect there. But on the other hand, I'm kind of scared of the people who, did rally around Aponism, who did want the violence and such. So, yeah. So I'm just not going to do that again. I'm not going to start another movement. I'm not going to start a Discord. I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing. Things on Reddit haven't blown up or anything. I seem to be doing a good job at that.
Has this shifted your perspective on antinatalists, or people who aligned with the ideologies that you aligned with? Like, you are like an active and head mod of a big antinatalism community. How do you see yourself in that role? And actually, that's another question that was submitted. How do you see yourself as head mod? More of a steward type role, or a role that steers AN in the direction of your projects? How'd you like it to look like in the near future? Was one of the questions. And so I'm not going to have a proper way of asking this. Like, you saw violence happen outside of Promortalism and Efilism. It happened within your circle, or support for some type of violence. Are you? I would be jaded. I am jaded, for the record. I do speak out against Promortalism and Efilism and all that stuff, but also antinatalists as well. I think this is a niche online that fosters some troubling beliefs, and I have nothing good to say about it. That's it.
Well, I think the most direct way to answer your question is I'm a moderator. I moderate. I remove extreme positions that need to be removed. I mute them, I ban them. I remove their comments, their posts.
Well, if you moderate a vegan community and you're seeing week after week of vegans saying I want to kill people, would that not make you feel like maybe this thing isn't for me, or like I don't want to be around these types of people? Like, do you ever get those types of feelings?
Well, I left the Aponist Society, so yeah, I had that feeling. Thankfully, the communities that I've moderated, like on Reddit, the other moderators. Sorry, there's some emergency vehicles outside.
No problem.
Thankfully, the people I've been working with on Reddit, they've all, been level-headed, and I haven't had much trouble keeping sanity within the teams. So, for the most part, like on the antinatalism subreddit, for the most part, like 99% of people are like not advocating for any sort of violence. They're peaceful people. They're not that troublesome. It's just the 1% that pop in at this point. I remove them. I think that there are a much larger percentage of the community before I joined the team. But I've permanently banned them all. So it's just a better space now.
Okay.
Now, if it were endless horde of people trying to cause violence in some way, then yeah, I probably would just ask for the subreddit to be nuked by admin or something.
And so how do you see yourself as head mod?
Yeah, so one thing that really defines my time as head mod is that I'm vegan. I'm an abolitionist vegan. Sig was vegan, but the previous head mod before that, Exact, was not vegan. They also, I don't think they were leftist. I'm a leftist. I feel that also informs my time as head moderator. I've added 3 rules relating to veganism on the Antinatalism subreddit. One of them is no speciesism. Another one is no carnist hate. And the last one is no anti-vegan content. Those are 3. And another one related to my leftist view is I have a no fascist rule. That one is going to be changed slightly in the future. But I've tried to remove a lot. Additionally, anything to do with like eugenics, any sorts of like hatred against people, marginalized groups, animals. We had a lot of trouble with people trying to say, hey, like we should do antinatalism more like India or poor countries and Africa or something. Those people shouldn't reproduce, people would say. So like I've removed a lot of that kind of stuff. I see myself more aligned with kind of like Benatar. I'm trying to move the online community toward that direction. I think that's great in many ways. Like I think one is more presentable to the world. I think that it makes us look a bit more sane. That we have more of a point that's more succinct. And also, I just kind of I do see it as an opportunity for people to help people come to veganism. I don't like try to enforce that on the community in any way, but I do try to improve sort of the lens that the antinatalist subreddit can view veganism with. So I've removed like anti-vegans, people who like spend all their time posting negative opinions about veganism. And I have tried to also kind of calm the vegan community within the antinatalism subreddit. So I've reduced the amounts of sort of fighting back and forth. I've changed the subreddit description to align more with the view that antinatalism is about the ethical permissibility of creating new sentient life instead of just new human life. So yeah, it's a combination of like, me being a vegan, me being a leftist versus, what was before, which was neither of those two. So my those two influences, I feel, have changed things quite a lot and, are going to influence the direction going forward.
Okay, thank you. This is just another question submitted. What's antinatalism's relation to suffering reduction in your view, and various definitions people have of antinatalism?
I don't really think about suffering reduction that much. I don't consider myself a utilitarian. I'm influenced by negative utilitarianism. I, certainly wish there's less suffering, but like I see antinatalism to be more concerned with consent. I'm happy to like platform people who are concerned about the suffering reduction, but I'm skeptical of people who that's like where that's their whole thing, because they often have like Efilist views. They want to cause like an involuntary extinction of all sentient life because that is the best way of sort of reducing suffering. So like people like Amanda, I don't really identify with that, if that's what you're asking.
Okay. When it came to Aponism, the questioner didn't see the sense in combining anarchy, veganism, and antinatalism. What is the benefit? Why isn't feminism in there? Why aren't LGBTQ plus rights in there, etc.? They essentially wonder why those three things are connected and other values aren't.
Yeah. So within Aponism, anarchism is in there, and anarchism is about removing unjust hierarchies. I see feminism about removing an unjust hierarchy. It's just one of them. Anarchism sort of about like them all the hierarchies. So I do feel like the anarchist pillar really does address the feminism point. Same with the LGBTQ issues, rights, and such. There's a hierarchy between like heterosexual and homosexual within society. Same with gender identities. It's a hierarchy between cisgender and transgender, and so on and so forth. So I feel that the anarchist pillar was a succinct way of sort of addressing all of those issues. I don't feel that feminism or LGBTQ issues or any other sorts of movement to improve rights and such for like marginalized communities, I don't feel that anything was really omitted. It was just kind of succinctly addressed within the anarchist pillar.
Got it. Okay. Another submitted question. I'd be curious what thinkers he leans on when it comes to anarchism, as it does sound like he perhaps refers to a radical form of pessimism. I, I also am curious if aponism in any way is a response or reaction to Efilism or certain types of attitudes in the antinatalism community.
So I have a question. You said a radical form of pessimism, or did you mean pacifism?
What did I say?
I think you asked me if like my anarchism was like a radical form of pessimism, is what you said.
Oh, no, I meant pacifism. Sorry.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I don't think that my anarchism is not anarchism. I see it as I want to remove unjust hierarchies. I see that as a big problem within society. If we got rid of unjust hierarchies, we wouldn't have like feminist issues. We wouldn't have issues around LGBTQ. We wouldn't have issues around trans rights and such. I'm not saying that it could ever magically just go away, but hierarchies are a root issue. Like speciesism is a hierarchy issue. I do see anarchism as addressing those things. I don't think that's just called pacifism, right? I don't think that pacifism addresses all the hierarchies, all the hierarchy issues. I also don't. I think the nation states are an issue. I see capitalism as sort of propping up hierarchies. So I'm not a capitalist, but all this considered, I don't see how that is just reduced to pacifism. I'm not violent. I don't think that violence is a way of going about anarchism. I don't think that violent revolution will create a peaceful society, and I also don't think that we will in any way ever be successful with violence. We live in a world with increasing levels of surveillance. AI is watching us all, and I also just don't think that a small group of people will ever be able to create any sort of successful revolution or grow to a point where they have a successful revolution if they have a violent point of view. So yeah, I don't think it's just me being a radical pacifist. I generally am an anarchist. Reducing me to a pacifist is just kind of, I don't know, like petty or something. I really don't get it, honestly. I don't get it. I've seen people say this. I just don't get it.
Well, I think that your form of anarchism entails radical pacifism stance, right? Like it's incorporated into your view. Like you're not going to.
I don't think my pacifist stance is necessarily radical. I feel that my pacifist stance is very similar to the same stance that my family has, that the city that I live in has, the people around me, my friends who aren't in any of these philosophical spaces. I think it's just like an every person stance that maybe we shouldn't kill people.
But it's
I
not.
think it's
But
just
it's not
common
though. Like you've
sense.
had the anarchists that you talk to support violence. So I think this
Oh,
is the difference is that just like what end of the scale are you on in terms of acceptance of violence? And I guess like the term radical pacifism is just total nonviolence kind of thing, or
so
at least
if
that's how I
somebody
would
comes at
conceptualize
me
it.
with a gun and I happen to be cutting celery, as a vegan does, maybe I might stab them if I can. Um, but if Canada elects I don't know, like a conservative party, I will just accept democracy. That's there's people speaking, and I'm sure that would affect some people's rights and marginalized communities. But that's just kind of society, and I have to sort of respect how things go. I'm not going to pick up arms the moment somebody gets elected that I don't like. I'm not going to enforce my views upon society like that. In the States, I think that's the core of the issue that we're talking about, like the kind of the lens here. Like Charlie Kirk, yeah, he probably did contribute to some violence. He probably did cause some people to kill themselves indirectly. He was causing shifts in policy, and legitimizing aggression, like social aggression. against marginalized people. But if we just started shooting everybody like Charlie Kirk, we wouldn't get anywhere good. Like, I feel like they're taking a very like kind of utilitarian sort of miscalculation at this. Like, oh, if we kill these people, good things will happen because, you know, these violent stochastic terrorists are dead or whatever. No, there's going to be a lot of pushback against us, and it's just going to embolden them. So like my pacifism is, I think, just kind of realistic. Like, leftists or aponists shooting at people in the States or wherever, it's not going to at all create any sort of positive consequence. It's going to make us look really bad. We're all going to get arrested. All of our spaces on the internet will get taken down. And, you know, I personally, I just don't want to kill anybody, I guess. You know, like, I'd rather talk about things. I'd rather, you know, we have working democracies, I hope. You know, I think that's the way I go about it. And if society is just rotten to the core, I don't think that violence would ever solve that.
Gotcha. And is there any, are there any thinkers that you lean on or no?
So I like David Benatar. In the realm of antinatalism, I don't think there's anything
Or
that he
like
said that I
anarchism
disagreed with.
too?
Anarchism, there are lots of anarchists I disagree with. Of course, specifically in the first part of the 20th century, in the late 1800s, there was a lot of violence there. I disagree with that. I do like some anarchist reflections on like Marxism, communism. I have like that. I've read a bit. Honestly, I have ADHD, so I don't read too much. I've like read the anarchist subreddits. Like I've probably read a great deal of what other people have said. I know that Noam Chomsky has his own had his own flavor. Is he still alive? I forget. I'm sorry, but I think he was going through some health issues last I checked. But I did read Manufacturing Consent. It did give me some perspective on kind of how like this sort of hierarchy we live in kind of works, and did sort of inform me about why we might need some change. But yeah, like it's like I really don't lean too heavily on anybody. I try not to idolize people or thinkers. We're all just people. I don't think that any one person should be like given great stature in our minds. We should all try to be individual thinkers, and you know, a lot of ideas don't need to be too complicated. Anarchism is a really simple thing. So is veganism. I feel abolitionist veganism is really simple, and so is antinatalism. I don't feel that we have to read, you know, thousands of pages or, you know, hold a bunch of nouns, you know, in our wallet to pull out. So,
and the second part of the person is also curious if Aponism in any way is a response or reaction to Efilism or certain types of attitudes in the AIM community.
yeah, it
What would you say
absolutely
to that?
is. It is. So like back in the day when Efilism was kind of booming, was growing, a big selling point to it was that antinatalism is just about humans and Efilism is about humans and animals. Efilism is concerned with all sentient life, and that's what Efilism is. So that's what they would say. It's not. That's not what it is. But I kind of wanted to swing in and say, hey, you want antinatalism for humans and animals, right? I know Aponism is more than that too, but like it's kind of a something better, more safer thing to kind of lead people toward, while we're trying to figure out sort of the infighting within the antinatalist community about whether antinatalism applies to just humans or humans and animals. Like until that got sorted out, I thought Aponism was a good alternative. I would have loved if like Aponism already existed, you know, in the like it could have been called Efilism, sure, right? I feel that it's kind of, Aponism is sort of what Efilist should have done, you know, with their energy. I feel that we had a lot of similar sympathies or similar like motivations in some sense. they went into the wrong direction at some point. But yeah, like Aponism definitely like kind of related to Efilism in that way. It was a response to something that Efilism was lacking in and its problems.
Okay. And another person asked, also, I'd be curious to ask him why he believes that a politicized AN is much needed in own words. Who's asking for it? And I think this is before you said you didn't want it politicized, but at the time when you did want it politicized, how would you respond to that?
Yeah, sure. So I've moved on this a bit, but the way that I saw it then was a lot of the issues in society, like in Canada where I live, for example, we're trying to increase the population through immigration and such. And there's like lots of talk about like fertility rates among like people in Canada like who aren't immigrants. There's a lot of talk about like population like elsewhere. It's not just in my country, it's lots of places. There's talk about climate change, climate collapse. What do we do about that? And we don't talk about like we talk about like renewable energy, solar panels. We talk about windmills, electric cars, buy Tesla, shower less and whatever. But we don't talk about like degrowth. We should talk more about degrowth. It'd be a lot easier to solve our climate issues and a lot of other issues that we're facing, like microplastics, if we had less people. Additionally, I think that like antinatalism does make some good points. Like we didn't ask to come to existence. And I think like, when I see a homeless person, I think, well, it's not really all their fault. They didn't ask to be here. They have all these issues like, they're cold, they're hungry, they're thirsty. Maybe they have some withdrawals from some substance. People are treating them like shit. I think that like if we had that perspective, like of it's society's fault that this person exists like this, and that ideally that we wouldn't have done this to them. I think that maybe if we understood that well, that sort of perspective, I think that we might be kinder to each other, not just like personally, but also like within our economics and politically. We'd have a more kinder perspective. Now, like the reason I've changed this attitude is just not really at all, I think, possible to politicize it because of the issues within the antinatalist community, because of the extremism that exists in some places, because of the disagreements. I think like some people want to like force antinatalism on others, in various ways. Could rapidly become eugenics. I don't want that at all. So, some people that I'm close with have suggested like, hey, like, you're kind of right about it, but like, it's just not possible. And I've agreed with that at this point.
So what's the plan for Aponism in 2026? Is it going to be resurrected? Are you going to, what's going to happen with that?
Yeah. So like, honestly, I did start writing a follow-up manifesto. And the plan for that is for me to just write it myself with no assistance from AI, no asking AI for ideas, no revisions from AI, no prompting. I felt really bad about using AI for that. And yeah, I got started. And I don't know if it's just my ADHD making me give up on it, or I think really just in my heart, like it's just kind of dead now. Like there's just so many negative feelings I have about it. And I think like a lot of the community is just kind of done with it too. I got a lot of criticism for the way I promoted Aponism, and I just don't want to bring those criticisms back because they were correct, right? They were correct. I think Steve Godfrey like wrote a lot of criticism of me on their YouTube channel and on their Twitter. I read, and I thought, oh, okay, well, like maybe once we get 1,000 members, I can properly align myself, with this better point of view. But yeah, I just don't want to create any trouble at this point. I don't want to have the issue of people promoting violence. I don't want to have the FBI at my place again, and I don't. it took great personal toll, since I've given up on Aponism. I've been able to focus my my attention elsewhere on things that like my career. So my life, right, it had a toll on me. I'm just not really willing to allocate my energy to that anymore. So it's not being revived unless somebody else wants to. I've archived the manifesto. You can go to aponism.org. It's still there. If somebody wants to pick that up, but it's not going to be me. And also, if somebody does resurrect it, somebody does try, I really hope that they're going to not take the violence route. If they did, I'd probably be, confrontational about that. But hopefully, I just hope that like it's had some influence within antinatalism, within veganism, within anarchism. I hope people from all three different places maybe might have gone antinatalist or vegan or something or other. I hope that there was some sort of, I think, cross promotion there. It lives on, within its influences, but the Aponism society is just going to be forever dead, I think.
And so right now, in terms of like antinatalism, the main thing you're doing is going to be the continuing with head mod as the Reddit, like for the Antinatalism Reddit, right?
Yeah, for the foreseeable future, I don't see myself stepping down from that at all. I see it as, like, again, it's a great honor for me to be doing this. I wish that I could say that there's maybe somebody who could do it better than I do. But, in my experience having delegated powers and such, I don't think so. I have a combination of being attentive to, the mental health of our users. I'm attentive to combating violence, combating extremists in areas that need to be combated. I am attentive to changing the rules when they need to be. I'm attentive to taking care of the reports in a fast manner. I'm attentive to creating teams, bringing on moderators, and ensuring that they actually like contribute and such. So it's really hard to put together a good subreddit, and that's one thing I'm pretty good at, I think.
So in terms of like how you're guiding it, is it Nume's way or the highway kind of thing?
Well, that's a loaded question. Like, if you're going to come in and you're going to say that you want to bomb an IVF clinic, yeah, it is the highway.
Well, I guess like with the like changing of rules and I don't know, do you still make public statements on behalf of the Reddit?
There hasn't, like, for antinatalism specifically, there hasn't been a need to make any public statements. There hasn't been anything really newsworthy at this point. But like unless there's something like that, the big that happens where the antinatalism community is directly mentioned in the news for something, then unless that happens, like I said, it did happen in a Law and Order episode recently, but I didn't make a statement for that. Yeah, I'm generally not making any statements. I'm trying to kind of take more of like a backseat, let the community be itself, but just kind of make adjustments here and there where need be, where it's necessary.
The reason I asked the question is because like the rules and the guiding it to be a non-speciesist kind of Reddit. And so hypothetically, if I said that antinatalism is speciesist, like how, like, is there any self-correcting mechanisms in place to where you would include views that you disagree with? Like, say, I don't even know your position on abortion, but there are pro-life antinatalists, there are pro-choice antinatalists, there are speciesist antinatalists or non-speciesist, you know what I mean? And it seems like I'm like, if I was active on the Reddit, I'm going to whatever view you have, right?
Yeah, so it's not entirely correct. Like my view does like influence the rules, of course, but like there's a certain extent that the rules are enforced. So if somebody said, came on the subreddit and said that like that meat is yummy and that that they don't feel bad at all about killing animals because they taste good, I would take that down under the no speciesism rule. It's an egregious offense, you know. If somebody said like it's okay to kill, it's ethically permissible to, like, I don't know, hunt animals down because they think that they're better than them, then I would remove it for that rule. But if somebody wanted to come in and like say like, hey, like what about this view of antinatalism? You know, it's concerned mainly with humans. Like, what about that view? Like, is that like is that interesting to you guys or whatnot? If somebody came in and said like did that, like posted that, like, I'd be okay with that. The rules are mostly just there to take down like the worst offenders. Like a lot of the reason why I'd want to take down like spaces as comments and posts is because those start like big arguments. You know, we have lots of vegans in the community who would like immediately like revolt if, you know, there was lots of content like promoting the exploitation of animals. So like I think in a nutshell, like if there's legitimate like peaceful discussion that's not causing sort of any sort of like big drama internally, then I probably won't remove it. Like I do like kind of look in the other direction sometimes when there is rule breaking content, if I feel that the rules are overreaching.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I had. I can't think of anything else. Is there anything that you would like to address or comment on before we wrap up?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing is I apologize to everyone if I've been rambling a lot. I hope that you found something useful in what I've said. I do feel I have a lot of influence on antinatalism at this point, so I think it's important that, you know, I open up a little bit, open my brain, and just kind of say how I feel about stuff. I briefly want to just kind of address like the IVF bombing. That's something that affected me a lot in the last year. I hope that every moderator, whether you're a Discord moderator, you run a Discord server, if you're on Facebook or you're on Twitter or you're on YouTube or you're on Reddit, you know, if you're a Reddit moderator, just know like you affect others. People who are in your community, you don't know who they are. You don't know what they're thinking. You don't know if they've been in the hospital for whatnot. You don't know if they have you know, disorders, right? You have to be really careful with the people that are reading your content or your community's content. So please enforce rules against violence. Try to limit conversations about like self-harm. Try to maybe keep your communities as much as possible. Like if it's a general antinatalist community, try to keep it about antinatalism and try to keep some of the other stuff out. Let other communities have that, right? I don't want people coming for antinatalism and leaving with, you know, a suicide attempt or whatnot. So yeah, just try to really be mindful for that. And I also want to thank people who worked with me for doing so. I want to thank the like other moderators of the antinatalism subreddit, and also the moderators of Vegan Circlejerk and the moderators of Veganism Social. I couldn't do it all without you. So yeah, I think we can wrap this up.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time, Nume, and sharing everything with us. And I want to thank everyone who submitted questions. You guys were a big help. I appreciate that. And yeah, thank you again, and good luck in 2026.
Thank you.
All right, take care.